Good afternoon, everybody. This is Bhumika from People Matters, and thank you for joining us for this exciting session today as a part of the People Matters SME Talent Week. The session we are discussing is identifying leaders early, your tips and tricks with Mr. Sundarajan. Please set the context before we move on to the session. Building a pipeline is a core for the success of any fast-growing business. In this webinar, we would discuss why do we need to identify leaders early, how talent leaders equip themselves to be proactive, and what are the potential traits of a leader. Take the opportunity to welcome the speaker for the session, Mr. Sundarajan, Founder and Director, Thomas Assessments. Mr. Rajan is an engineering gold medalist and MBA from Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, an entrepreneur with multiple successful ventures in human resources consulting, business assessments, and marketing analytics and consulting. Sundara's firms have won a number of awards across the world for the unique and innovative approaches in identifying the top talent and grooming them for larger responsibilities. He is actively involved in various industry bodies and is a speaker in many international forums on human resources. It's great to have you with us, Mr. Rajan, and thank you for taking our time to share your views on the SME Talent Week. We will try to take up as many questions as possible at the end of the session. You can also use hashtag SME Talent on social media platform to share your learnings. So without further delay, let me now hand it over to Mr. Rajan to take us through the session.
Welcome all of you. Thank you for being here with me. I will walk you through something which is recently introduced in India called the Potential Trait Indicator, which helps companies to identify leaders early in their life cycle, so that you can put the amount of effort required, inputs required to groom them, take on very, very large responsibility and take the organization forward. Session in two parts. The first of my presentation, I will walk you through the basic, the event behind creating this product, and then I will move on to what it means in terms of each of the traits that we are talking about, and finally end with a very small study that has been done in India to appreciate how this entire thing works. The question often people ask me when I speak about creating a leadership pool is, why do we need to identify them early? When the time comes, the leader will automatically emerge. Now, can really identify talent and equip them to be productive, or can be proactive about making them productive so early in their life? And finally, how can I identify the high potential traits of a leader? Our product tries to answer some of these questions. I think some what in the global economy, we realize that there's one thing that is happening across all areas. There is a commodification that is happening across areas, and it is happening very rapidly. One of the follow-ups of this commodification is the environment gets hyper-competitive. You don't have to go far. Just look at the e-retail business in India. We started one, and today we have a plethora of companies which are providing retail services. So this is a pattern that you are going to see across industry verticals from now onwards. Typically, they really get they face the brunt of this move down of global competition, globalization of competition and the rapid changes in the competitive scenario. And it's important for them to identify and create a leadership pipeline which is ready to take on responsibility. What we notice in the industry is that SMEs, they are not able to grow because the leadership pipeline is not there. You don't have a second line, you feel your business growth is affected, and the business growth not happening prevents you attracting more talent into your company, and it becomes a kind of a vicious cycle. Now, we notice one of the local challenges that is going to come through is the introduction of GST and the move to digital economy, which is going to provide a huge opportunity for those who are ready to grapple with the challenges and take the challenge head on. One of the things that will make a future-ready SMEs, in our opinion, is to have leadership pipeline ready, identity, and pushed into positions of authority and power to take on responsibility. It's really potential. It's a higher probability of success in a defined area. In our context, it could be the current role that the person is doing or a future role the person is doing, where the probability of success of the person is much higher. And its potential is one who can grow to maximize or optimize their talent. In one of the conducted by Harvard Business Review, 98% of the companies reported that they purposefully identify high potential. And attracting and retaining high potential leaders is a challenge in today's competitive environment. But if you identify them early and provide them opportunities so that they can groom themselves to take on larger responsibilities and take the organization to a higher level of performance, the power of them being retained becomes much higher. Now, on the one hand, we spoke about potential. What is personality? It's a stable psychological construct that governs thoughts, our abilities, our behavior. Typically, this is very little from the early to late adulthood. Hence, it's a very good predictor of performance as people come into the workplace. So, because of its ability to predict workplace outcomes, that is potential, and because it provides insights into raising self-awareness, it becomes the foundation for a development initiative for being identified as future leaders. This tool, personality tool, and it's also a potential measurement tool, a normative psychometric tool. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes to complete. Very high predictive validity of 0.62. Often the higher values also in terms of predictability. Is that it started with Professor McCallum, Spitzer, and Maloney, who wrote in Harvard Journal 11 traits or 11 dimensions identified as relevant for identifying leaders in organizations. Professor Ham and Ian McRae, who are the creators of this HPTI, identified 10 factors out of this 11, which might predict potential. They started investigating further and using a series of quantitative and qualitative methods. They identified 6 items which are relevant, 6 factors which are relevant, which can be used as indicators for future leadership potential. This drifted further across about 50 countries, having about 3,500 people taking this exercise, and 110 leaders in UK. In our 5, what differentiates a leader from the rest of the organization? HPT measures 6 traits, including indicate potential to succeed. It has an optimal level, which is coming out of those 110 leaders of industry in UK. It's subject in identifying and nurturing the next generation of leaders. Traits. These are in or in descent order of importance, the first and the most important one is consciousness, which is self-discipline and approach, ability to control one's impulses. Second important is adjustment, which is how an individual reacts emotionally to stress, external pressure, and still results. Third one is speed, which indicates a person supposed to innovation, new change, new innovation, new methods and approaches. The risk approach, which indicates how one deals with challenging, difficult, or threatening situations. Do they act in a calculated, measured manner, or do they react impulsively to handle the situation? The fifth one is acceptance, which indicates the react to complex information, complex environment, ambiguous and unclear information. How do they deal with such situations? And finally, calmness, which indicates relative desire to win, need for power, and reaction to winning and losing as a person. All these six together indicate a person to become a leader in future. It's important. Consciousness is the most important. This is relatively. Relatively, conscientiousness is the most important. Competence is the least important. Relative. So, conscientiousness centers on goals and how to reach them. They will be self-motivated. They do not need, the focus of control is internal. Not need an external carrot or an external stick to get things done. On the other extreme, people who are low on conscientiousness, they can be easygoing, more spontaneous. They are open to new insights. Very often you will find them not necessarily focused on the task all the time. That we can talk about in the Indian context. I'm from the sports and the film world because most of us recently react to them and identify with them. One, the well-known Amir Khan, who is known to spend enormous amount of time prepare for each of his movies and make sure that he portrays the character that you feel as though it's a real living person who we are watching. That comes to my mind when you go to the cricket field is Dravid, who is known to assure that, in fact, one of the statistics that shows that is one batsman in the world who has a higher average innings in test matches than his first innings. Now, people who follow cricket, especially cricket, realize that the pitch tends to keep on deteriorating every day as the play goes on. And second innings typically is played either on the fourth or the fifth day. The pitch is at its best. And the batsman who ensures that he plays better or deteriorating or a poorer wicket. And I don't want to speak about the god of cricket who is known even after scoring maybe 30 centuries, still the Nathan plays as though he is a fresher. And it's a kind of an example of a conscientiousness that you can think of. People who take what task that is being given to them so seriously to ensure that they deliver the best that is possible. What is a high adjustment? People adjustment tend to mind calm under pressure. They do not get ruffled easily. They have fewer feelings of stress. And they are absolutely unruffled in whatever circumstances. People with adjustment tend to experience more stress, and worry more about things, tend to build much more easily by sudden changes in the environment. There are taking examples from the cricket, because most of us tend even often. Both captains, both nicknamed Captain Cool at different points of time, On the left, you see Mahendra Singh Dhoni, who is known to keep cool even in the most trying of the circumstances. Whose nick was Captain Cool, who is supposed to exhibit pressure whatsoever despite being the worst of the situation. High curiosity often likes novelty, try new things, irrespective of their age, irrespective of their position in life, variety in things that they do, and try to avoid monotony in their life. See, they tried and tested methods to play safe, prefer to more towards consistent approach, predictable, repeatable approach, rarely try out newer ideas. Again, I come from the different sports. One is you have Federer, who's to try out a different shot on the tennis court, and we have the New Zealand captain, who's known out again the things. In fact, one of his ideas is not about bowling. He had a new bat which ensures that the not slip in the batsman's hand, irrespective of the number of hours that he has been playing. Very often in cricket, it tends to slip if you have been playing for a long time. He has created a product out of his curiosity. He has created a product which ensures bat remains very stable in the batsman's hand. This approach, people's approach tend to bring a recent and real approach to difficult situations and quickly. People with low risk approach indicates more instinctive, emotional decisions and challenges or conflicts. They want to get on with things quickly and react impulsively to situations. I have Vishwanath Anand, who is a well-known chess master, who is known to think through moves in his head. There's no lightning player. He himself admits that in mind I actually play out the 10 moves before I make one move. Ambiguity. People with ambiguity acceptance usually thrive on uncertainty and complexity. Ambiguity acceptance in situations where there are clear-cut answers and solutions, prefer things to be in a structure in black and white with no gray. People with acceptance are comfortable having various shades of gray in their life. Know this person, he's the Indian coach of the Team Indian World Cup cricket. And look at the kind of ambiguity that you had to manage. He teamed with 3 past cricket captains. He had a coach of extremely demanding. He Indian public which was having very high expectations and still able to handle every one of those requirements without ever losing his cool at any point in time. Finally, people who are competitiveness enjoy positions of power, positions of influence and recognition, and low competitiveness prefer cooperation and collaboration. They like the spotlight and may go away from competitive situations. And I have one who all of you immediately recognize, Virat Kohli, who demonstrates his competitiveness on the field almost all the time. So a person completes the exercise. This is the snap of the report that you get. 56 traits. You get a number which is between 1 to 100. But the beauty system is that it makes it into 4 blocks. You could have low or moderate or optimal or excessive on each of those 6 traits. for the op band has been created by analyzing the data of the 110 leaders, business leaders, and has been arrived at by looking at being their score on these 6 traits. What you notice is that optimal band is actually not consistent across all the 6 traits. It is fairly wide when it comes to conscientiousness, but when it comes to competitiveness, it is much more narrow if you were to look at it. So this based on those 110 leaders whose data has been utilized to create this optimal band. A good typically will have at least 3 traits in the optimal band, and a couple of them being the moderate, one of them could be the excessive. Otherwise, the inputs in terms of how do they shift from a moderate to an optimal, and how do they control where they have got an excessive trait. The I to have all the 6 in the band, but that's an extremely rare possibility. Typically, what out of the 6 in the you still have a potential leader in front of you, and you're not working with them. So this is the review get. So each of the traits, what is low, what does score mean? If it is low, what does it mean? If it is excessive, what does it mean? You get the information in the report. And moving on, we have done in India for an MME in healthcare sector. And the company phase was to create a peer leadership team which is on the future in achieving need in the Indian healthcare market. To identify specific development and coaching needs using holistic assessment approach. We set the current proficiency level on critical competencies. So the development center, we identified on the critical competencies and the tools that were used in that. APAR also ran the HPTI to understand the insight that we can gather from HPTI. The data realized high in mobility tests related with high score on strategic thinking. High score in the test, high score on conscientiousness, positive with high score on strategic thinking. So the combination of mentally and with high conscientiousness gives us a person who's got the high ability to think. High conscientiousness also really correlated with high scores in customer orientation and communication skills, which is the kind of additional input that we got. Gather high score of conscientiousness along with mental ability to have a person who can probably be a great strategic thinker, and we grouped him. Second, how adjustment stress. The high score in adjustment positively correlated with high score on leadership also. High adjustment is positively correlated to high score on customer orientation also. We realize somebody who is high on adjustment tend to accept irate customers, their complaints, they accept the uncertainties of a working life with equanimity, and tends to that to be one of the key indicators of leadership. Equality under various difficult differing circumstances. So about we saw high scores in curiosity were possibly correlated with high on customer orientation, and low score on curiosity very likely to result in low score on strategic thinking. So we a different angle here on strategic thinking. We said that score on mental ability and high score on conscientiousness together gave us high score or probability of a strategic thinker. But if you have very low score on curiosity, that indicates that you probably have somebody who is not very strong on strategic thinking. approach is positively correlated with high score on leadership. Risk approach is your ability to gather information, understand all the information, hold, react impulsively, and then take a calculated decision. The rate of risk approach is also present low score on result orientation. So, on hand, high risk approach helps you to be very unwavering, calculated in terms of taking your decision. But at the same, it is also seen often as somebody who is not quick enough to move. So you make two different perceptions. Have somebody with a high risk approach. One, the person does not tackle easily and takes a very calculated consideration. On the other hand, he also is not, or she is also not quick in taking decisions. This could be something of a surprise to most people. We saw that score in competitiveness is actually negative correlated with leaders because it is extremely competitive. They also tend to rub people off, turn people off, and leads to low acceptance of the leader, and it leads to leadership. So things that I'd like to share with you. I'm sure a number of questions come up take right now, and if you have anything more, you could always write to me at sundar@assessment.com or sundar@assessment.com. I'll be happy to answer the questions.
Mr. Rajan, for a very insightful session. We do have a lot of questions coming in from our listeners. And the first question is by Sandeep Nakhate. He wants to know, can we remove team lead designation from IT companies by considering that senior software developers and managers can act as team lead?
This is internal decision that the company has to take as to how do they want to set the organization. As long as you are leading a team, the label only is only a label. So there is a vice president who is leading the team, a team leader leading the team. This tool is for anybody who is leading a group of people is going to be considered as a leader. Next question, Bhumika.
Thank you for that answer. I'll move on to the next question. It is by Divya. She wants to know, is there an ideal percentage of high potentials compared to the total employee base? And the follow-up question from her.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Should there be any differentiation with respect to salary increments for high potentials versus the rest of the employees? Or should salaries be kept separate, or more focus on other talent development initiatives be given?
Let me share with you the thumb rule that we use. It's only a thumb rule. It is not black and white. Is there a percentage of high potential that we should look at? In opinion, yes. In our field, there will be between up to 30%. Between 1/4 to 1/3. It may vary depending on the size of the organization. Smaller organizations may want to have 1/3. If there is a bigger organization, it may go down to about 22 to 25%. That's the pool that we would like to see, because we're going to have attrition happening naturally as well as not naturally. Coming to the next question. Should there be a higher increment? Should there be a higher salary for somebody who is considered to have higher potential? In my opinion, the packages should be accommodated with the performance of the person. You may provide additional inputs, additional training, additional learning opportunities, additional projects for somebody who you think have potential to make it to the next level or make it to the next few levels. If they themselves, then automatically they will get a higher pay. But just somebody demonstrates a higher potential, in my opinion, I do not think you should give a higher pay. Let us demonstrate the into performance. By all means, the person should be given a higher pay. So on the question, just should not be given higher pay. performance should be given higher priority.
That's a very good answer, and I think it also answers Divya's questions that she had posted. We would move on to our next question by Parul. She wants to know, can the leadership traits be nurtured and worked upon to bring to the optimal level?
Yes. In two parts. If it were to be moderate and you want to bring it to optimal, also we have two bands. One is a low moderate, which is on the lower side of it. There is a high moderate, which is closer to the optimal side. High moderates are much more easy to manage with training, with support, and mentoring and coaching. Then definitely move the person into optimal band, which it is a moderate. If it's low moderate, I'm very sure that we will be able to pull it all the way up to optimal. It's better, the person as well as the organization is better off by accepting that as a limitation and create workaround with that particular trait. If it's excessive, on the other hand, and the suggestions to temper excessiveness, excessive curiosity, excessive conscientiousness, excessive confidence, with a governing mechanism put in place and support being provided, it is possible to bring down. So yes, it is possible, especially high, moderate, or excessive. It is very, very much possible to bring it to optimal level. If it's moderate or low, I have not attempted because something that is going to be at the time that is going to take is going to be much larger. I would rather create rather than bottom change.
Sir, we are almost out of time now, and quickly we would take up our next question, which is from Franklin. He wants to know, how would you fix the gaps? Are there any training programs developed in this context, or is it the companies that have to build the programs on their own?
We do programs which we could suggest to you, but I have noticed most companies have their own way of conducting training. They have their empaneled trainers. In some of the companies, they have a training team in place. So actually, no matter who does the training, and if the individual gets the training, if you could call us, we will definitely help you out. But you are free to use any of the training approaches, any of the trainers that you may have come across. We would definitely help you in terms of identifying and telling you what kind of training needs to be provided to the person.
Answer, Mr. Rajan. We are having a continuous flow of questions from our listeners. So quickly, just one last question I would take before we wind up. It is from Ajit. He wants to know, how do you benchmark the moderate defined for each trait?
Okay. You started by looking at, if you look at it, the data has been analyzed extensively to create 4 bands. So if anywhere between, let's say, typical points of the traits will vary between 1 to 100. It is broken into 4 broad segments. Normally it's between 1 to 30 or 35. It's very from trait to trait, but I'm giving you very, very rough figure. And then moderate, which varies between 30 to somewhere between 55 to 60. I have got close to 30, let's say 35, I call it a low moderate. For a score which is closer to 55, let's say 52, I call it moderate. That's a distinction that I am making. So moderate, optimal, and excessive. These are the bands that come automatically from the report. And effects that I use the word low moderate and high moderate.
Right. So Rajan, we have a lot of questions, but if you could share your Twitter handle or any email ID where these questions can be directed to, because our listeners really want these questions answered. So I think this would help them.
which they can ask. I'll be happy to answer. It is sundara@bsnl.com, SUNDARA, Sundara at Victory, S for Sugar, N for Nagpur, L for London, bsnl.com.
Right. Thank you so much. I hope everybody has noted that down. You can also direct your questions. Keep them coming. Use hashtag SME Talent on Twitter and on all social media platforms. With this, we would end our Q&A here, and that also brings us to the closure of the session. Again, on behalf of People Matters and the viewers today, I would like to thank Mr. Rajan for great insights he has shared with us. I would also thank the viewers for joining in today for this instructive session. I'm sure all of you would have taken away a lot of learnings from this session. Feel free to write into us about what you thought and what your key learnings were. You can also use hashtag SME Talent on social media to share your learnings. The next session is Talent Development Across Levels, a Lever to Scale by Makarand Appalwar at 3 p.m. Make sure that you all join in and continue your SME Talent Week learning journey. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you all.